Hello, people, and welcome to the Raw Reaction Show, reacting to the news that our Bosnian bodybuilding bouncer has left the building. It's a lot of bees for a guy who has been at the club for, surprisingly, 3.5 years. It's a long time that he has been at the club, but he's finally gone, and we're going to talk about it. Hello and welcome to the Goon Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction series where we discuss the latest Arsenal news and react to it with the help of our chat box. Hello people. Saeed, Happy New Year. I am well aware that it is now 2021 where you are. Awesome stuff, which means that you're watching at a ridiculous time in the morning. What are you doing, son? What are you doing? Happy New Year, Mark. Happy New Year, guys. Omar, Daniel, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in, respecting the grind, 100%, one down, many more to go. How's it going, mate? Going good, fella, going good. One down, 25 to go. Actually, this is smart from Sayed. He wants to save Schalke from relegation so he can cash in for a few more years. Now, let's discuss, obviously, the news. The news being that Sayed Kolasinac has left the club. I'm aware that there has been a statement made on Arsenal's website regarding Kolasinac leaving, which was strange because he, of course, leaving in itself is odd because in terms of the press conference that we had earlier on, because Arteta was so kind of coy about the whole thing when it was announced mere hours later. Let's just have a throw up on the screen. There we go. So Edu says Sayed needs to be playing regularly, so we decided together that a move back to Germany with Schalke will benefit him at this moment. We will be keeping in close contact with Sayed, and we wish him huge success for the remainder of the season with Schalke. And I'm well aware that he, of course, also tweeted Sayed Kolasinac on his Twitter, which was very quickly changed to a Schalke Twitter feed. You can tell how he's happy to be back. But he says, I wish my team all the best for the next 6 months. Thanks for everything. Stay strong, stay safe, and stay healthy. So he obviously needed to move on. He needed to move on. And from the information that we've got, Arsenal are saving a decent amount of money from this deal, which is obviously a really positive thing. The loan fee is something in around 3 million euros. So Arsenal are going to get about £2 million from that, which isn't too bad. We save £1.5 million in wages as well. So already that's 4.5 million extra available to Arsenal for this upcoming 6 months. That may be chosen to invest this January. It may be chosen to be saved for the summer. It may be chosen to be used in a loan fee of our own for any player that we might see come in, be that Isco, be that anyone else. I'd love to get your thoughts on the situation about how many kind of people do you think are expecting to move on. Now, I've seen a lot of people kind of tweeting and saying these are the players that they expect to be kind of got rid of in January. I expect there to be a lot of movement in regards to players both more outwards than inwards, but I still think that we're going to see a lot of players being moved on, fingers crossed, by the club. I'd be disappointed if we didn't, and it's good that you can see this is being done before the window is even opened, is that we're getting rid of players, and we're getting on this quickly, we're getting it done fast, which is fantastic to see that the club is moving proactively instead of just kind of waiting around, really being a little bit here and there about how much money they want for loan deals. No, just get the players gone, get them out of the club, and get as much money in as possible so we can either reinvest it or save it for the summer, where we can then obviously do a lot more damage in a transfer window, damage being the key thing. When does his contract actually end? Says Ty, his contract is finishing in 2022, so when he returns he will have a year left on his deal. Whether that is then used to be sold, whether we just agree a mutual termination of his deal, we'll have to wait and see on that one. Martino says, does Edu only know how to do loans? Which is an interesting spelling of loans. No, because of course he signed Partey and Gabriel and Willian. I don't know, in terms of outgoings, we haven't seen too much movement permanently, but I'm kind of interested to see how Edu does in this window. I said that I wanted to see signings made by Crystal Palace on the 14th or 16th, I think, of January. There's plenty of time for us to get deals done before that Crystal Palace game. I'm not expecting us to get players in by the West Brom match. I think that would be a little bit overboard. But by the Crystal Palace match, which is our next league game after West Brom, we should be getting players in 100%. Anti-Criz TV, thank you ever so much for signing up, mate. Absolute legend. You've joined an absolute great crew of members on the channel. You, I think, could actually become one of our 101 member, I think, from my knowledge, if I'm right. That is true. So congratulations. I don't know who was our 100th member. It was Dave Lennon. Upgrading, to be fair. Oh, no, he's upgrading. So thank you, Dave, of course, for upgrading. But it was actually Hader H was our 100th member. So thank you ever so much for the continued support. It's been a crazy year. 20,000 subscribers. We've obviously hit in 2020. Got engaged. It's been an absolutely mental year for myself and TGT and for, of course, the whole of the TGT gang. He says, I thought you need another expert member who speaks out. Cheers, mate. No problem. Absolutely fantastic to have you on board, and I hope you enjoyed joining the Discord server. I'll make sure to put that in the community tab, the link for that, straight after today's show. Keith Barry says, clear out the lot of them. Absolutely. Clear out every single one of them. Jamie says, it's true. Yes. Very happy that Kolasinac is leaving. Daniel Roberts says, we got fireworks outside and it's only 5:30. Wow. Unbelievable scenes. Arjit says, we can only sign after we sell more players, so maybe it will take up to the 3rd week to get players in. I don't think it should take that long, Arjit. I think you can move players out pretty rapidly at the start of the window. There's going to be a lot of movement. People are going to be wanting to get in players as soon as possible to have a massive impact as fast as possible is the key thing. So if we can get players out and in quickly, that's going to be key. You don't necessarily have to do them all at the same time. You work with intermediaries. You get deals get done on WhatsApp, which is not me joking. Genuinely, a lot of deals in football these days are getting done and negotiated via WhatsApp. And you know that users of WhatsApp, you can have multiple conversations going on at the same time. It's just common sense. Multiple deals can and will get done in rapid succession, and I'm hoping that is ultimately what we do. Kevin is just throwing some T's into the chats, which I'm hoping stands for Tom. Much appreciated. Daniel Robert says, I think the fireworks outside are celebrations of Kolasinac leaving rather than the actual new year. Javier says, yes, Tom, we need to offload before we're seeking players to bring in. Omar says, Tom, I think he will do well in the Bundesliga. He's just not good enough for the Premier League. It's a different styled league. There's definitely quality from both. Bundesliga is actually getting closer in terms of overall quality to the Premier League and has done for quite some time, with the emergence of Bayern Munich, with our Dortmund are improving, with our Gladbach and RB Leipzig are improving. There's other teams there too that are looking really dangerous, by Leverkusen. These teams are getting much better and better. They're getting better at producing players, finding young talent, and I wouldn't be surprised soon to see the Bundesliga come much closer to the Premier League in terms of overall sort of quality. If you threw like a Burnley or a Sheffield United or any of the lower teams down in the Premier League into the Bundesliga, I think they'd have a tough time trying to survive. I genuinely do. Neil De Souza says, big up you. We need to buy more Championship players like Matt Grimes at Swansea. 1,846 successful passes, 152 long. But you're doing your research there, Neil. Fair play to you, son. Mateus Pereira, of course, is West Brom. 25 shots on target from midfield. And Alejandro Gomez. I wouldn't take Papu Gomez, to be honest. He's 32 now, I think. It's just a little bit like it's gone too far. If you're looking at players from the Championship, you should be looking at someone like Michael Elise from Reading. Fantastic young player. Glenn, good to have in the chat, my son. Look forward to seeing you in the chat in the Discord server rather very soon when you can get it sorted out. I wish getting players in and out was as easy as FIFA. I think we need to temper some of the wishes of what we can do, but we are off to a brilliant start. Now, what I would like you to do, guys, in the chat box, this is one of your, of course, we like to pride ourselves on making this a integrated show where we can interact with each other, and interaction is obviously key. So if you could write down your list of outs, how many are you expecting us to see? I want to see a number, and I want to see you type in the names of the players that you expect the club to move on. Not who you would like to see, obviously, go, but ultimately who you are expecting the club to move on in January. I'd love to get some of your thoughts and some of your lists so we can have a bit of a chat and a discussion about who you think the club is most likely to see moved on. Javier says, I feel bad for Kolasinac. He was brought by Wenger as an attacking wing-back, and instead Arteta kept using him as a centre-back. we used him in a system which was obviously as a left centre-back. He was brought in to be kind of this... He was brought in as a left-back. Under Wenger, we rarely ever played with a back three, to be honest. It was mainly playing 4-2-3-1. He was more of a wing-back. He was better at going forwards than he was defensively, and ultimately that cost him quite a lot. I preferred Nacho Monreal a lot to Kolasinac, but ultimately we decided to move the Spaniard on, which is fine. We had Kieran Tierney come in, which is great. But I would have liked to have seen maybe more of an emphasis brought on with, if you're going to play Kolasinac, then you start switching him to playing the 3-4-3 or the 3-5-2, and you play him on that left-hand side as a wing-back because he's so much more effective in that area. I'm seeing lots of comments come in. We're going to read through those in just a second. Let's do that now. So, hello, says UTG. 4 says Zamir. He says we're going to get 4 out. WN Mie says now it's Ozil, Willian, Socrates next. I think you are reaching if you think it's going to be those guys. David Maudsley says Socrates going to leave Saliba and Nelson, possibly loan deals. UTG reckons that 3 will go with Mustafi, Kolasinac and Torreira. Torreira is an interesting one because we don't know what's going on with the situation at Atletico Madrid. I'm pretty sure we're not going to expect him to be recalled or sold on a permanent basis. Daniel Robert reckons that we're going to see 5 players move out. Mustafi, Socrates on permanent deals, Saliba, Nelson and Eddie Nketiah moving on loan. I'd be surprised if Nketiah went on loan. If anything, the only striker that we're going to see movement from would have been Balogun on a permanent if we can get that sorted, or if we get him signed up to a new deal and then send him on loan at the same time. I think that's the best way to sell it to Balogun right now, is that you're signing up to a new contract. You say we're going to send you on loan to a club where you're going to be guaranteed first team minutes, and then you come back next season and fight your way into the team after we've sold maybe Nketiah. That is ultimately what the club needs to do. Whether we can do that is another questionable thing. Zamir says Kolasinac, Mustafi, Socrates and Ceballos. Mike says that I want 7 gone. I expect to see Kolasinac and Saliba moved on. That's the list. So he's leaving it up to me then to decide what the other 5 are. Arjit says 3 apart from Kolasinac and Mustafi and Papa and Nelson. Only Papa leaving outright as a free agent. Dave says Socrates, Mustafi out, Nelson, Saliba on loan. So 4 plus Kolasinac, that making 5. Interesting. Rohan's 5 or 6 says they're going to go. Tom says 3 out, Socrates released and Nelson Saliba sent on loan. Hot Cakes says, Tom, who is going to look after Ozil while Kolasinac is gone? Well, fingers crossed he doesn't have to deal with that type of situation again, and he won't need Kolasinac in the group. But interestingly, with him moving on, Ozil, of course, is is a very much an outcast of the club, and Kolasinac will certainly have been someone who was kind of close with him in the group, and maybe him losing kind of people that is close to him will encourage him maybe to move on. He's not got those same characters around him that were kind of backing him. Maybe with Guendouzi gone, with now Kolasinac gone, we could see Ozil move on. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Matt Greek says Ozil, Mustafi, Kolasinac, Nelson and Nketiah, Saliba at the very least. Alex McCarthy says, I do, however, want Arteta to think about Europa League. Trimming down the squad too much will cause fatigue in the long run. Interestingly, Alex, now that we're at the group stage and we're coming up to kind of the business, well, we're definitely in the business part of the Europa League. We've got a very, very tough draw against a Benfica side that are doing very well in the Portuguese league. I think they're still sitting in second. Let me just check Liga NOS right now for the table. They are sitting in second, 2 points behind Sporting and 2 points ahead of third place Porto. So I'm not kind of expecting them to be kind of a walk in the park. Not a team I would expect to rotate, but I do understand what you're saying in regards to making sure we don't thin things too much. We need to keep a amount of quality there so that we can rotate in the league. With how kind of COVID is impacting the Premier League, and you're looking at ultimately postponements happening, fixture congestion, we might need to have situations where we are playing 2-3 games in the space of 7 days, and we do need to rotate. So that's certainly something that we need to think about. So I take your point 100%. Javier said, Tom, this is good for Arsenal. Wolves Espirito Santo says, small squad is a happy squad. He tries to keep 19 to 21 players that help the chemistry. Arsenal have about 29 plus at this stage. Arsenal, Granny says, this is wishful thinking from myself at the moment. It might be. We'll have to wait and see. Adid says, Socrates and Mustafi will probably be moved on. Think Nelson may get a loan and Saliba will be surely loaned out. That's kind of the conclusion of what I want to talk about regarding Kolasinac. in regards to the last 15 minutes of the show, we've got a chance for some Q&A with you guys. Feel free to throw a question in here if you like. I'd also, as it is the final show, unless something mental happens this evening, of 2020. It's been a terrible year in general for most people. It's been awful, dreadful, terrible. Don't really like particularly talking about it. And we know on this channel we like doing things in as much a positive way as possible. So I'd love if you guys could start throwing in your most positive Arsenal moment of 2020. It might be the FA Cup victory. It might be the signing of Thomas Partey. It might have seen me going absolutely mental about Dominic Szoboszlai for then to him go off to RB Leipzig. I'd love to know your Arsenal moment of 2020. What was the most positive thing about the year regarding Arsenal for you? Let's throw these in the chat. And also, if you've got any Q&A questions as well, feel free to throw them into the chat and we can start discussing for the last 15 minutes or so of the show. Daniel Roberts says, will Runnison be cover for Kolasinac at left back? Seems like he can't do the job as cover from a goalkeeper. Oh, that's harsh, Dan. That's harsh. But he's better with his feet, with his hands. That's the thing right now. He's better with his feet than he is with his hands. Number one moment. Sorry, Runnison. Best part of 2020 was Raul Sanllehi leaving. Daniel says Saka and Martinelli signing new contracts as the best moment of 2020. Arsenal Granny says winning the FA Cup was certainly the most positive part of the year. Mike says the most positive moment Arsenal at 20 was when I asked to be Tom's best man and give the primary speech at his wedding. I mean, allowing Mike to do a speech at my wedding might catapult me towards divorce than it would to a happy marriage at this stage. But Mike is going to hopefully, fingers crossed, be there. You never know. We might have to do a TGT pod on the wedding because not only should Mike be there, but all the boys should be there on the wedding. I mean, the missus is going to love it. We're going to have a podcast. We're going to set up like a booth during the reception. It's not going to happen. She'd absolutely murder me. It's absolutely murder me if that was the case. I can imagine Michael whip his phone out and start recording things. You never know. The returning of Martinelli after his 3-month injury. 100% is your best one, says Antichrist TV. John says, we need to get hold of a keeper in January. That is actually something that supposedly the club are looking at. Philip Ayers says, Defo the month in the summer, knocking everyone out and winning the FA Cup was the best. Tom says the FA Cup semi-finals and final was sweet this year. Neil says Saka and Martinelli are the only shining light of the entire season. Dave says the FA Cup win has to be the top moment. In a season of utter chaos and calamity, we did something that Spurs can only dream about. Javier wants to ask a question by saying Bernd Leno, amazing saves in crucial moments this season for Arsenal's centre-backs have been the low-key, pretty good season for us. And the thing about Bernd Leno is he has received so much stick unnecessarily because of the whole Martinez situation. He's come out of the season really positively with that penalty save against Chelsea. Had a good performance against Brighton, saving a couple of decent shots and the likes of David Propper. So I think that we're going to come out of this season with a positive goalkeeping situation for our number one, and we're going to start off 2021 maybe with the improvement of the number two situation if we do end up going for another goalkeeper in the window. Toby says, at least that's one out at the moment, Tom. Good start. 10-1 says, have we not taken Nketiah from Chelsea? Perhaps now Balogun will be playing more games with the senior side. Nketiah blocked his way with us. But we didn't know, obviously, the development of either of them that far back. Both of them were very young when it happened. I think that was with Nketiah. It was at least 4 years ago we took him from Chelsea. At that point, Balogun's 14 years old? So I don't think there's any way of knowing how that was ultimately going to turn out. Javier says Tom's engagement was the number one moment of 2020. Ty says watching Emmy on the floor to his parents after the FA Cup win. Obviously he was in tears, FaceTiming them. That was absolutely brilliant, just seeing that. And obviously the whole kind of the moment and the thought around the goalkeeper who had such kind of 11 years of Arsenal really not being given a number one opportunity, and he took it with both hands and won an FA Cup, quite literally taking it with both hands. Matt Thornton says beating Chelsea 3-1 to end that horrendous run was as a really high point. That was definitely a really good strong point of 2020, just turning that around. Mike says, oh, for goodness sake. I'd set that up for you, and you could have been the bigger man, which should not be a problem for you, son. And you could have avoided that, but you didn't. You didn't. And that's why I just had to floor you there. Daniel Roberts says, one of the best moments has to be finding Sherlock Holmes detective work to find Gabrielle on the motorway and that the clouds were English clouds. Arsenal Twitter at its finest. Oh, wow, the gerbils dropped in to say that top moment of 2020 was when I told everyone that Raul was going to be sacked. Hotcake says, Tom, what do you think of signing Dele Alli? Would bring a different dimension to us. We need different styles depending on opponents. Dele is ready for the challenge. Oh, mate. Dele Alli, no. I mean, it would be hilarious, and I just don't really want him at my club. I don't really like him. It might be just a very selfish and naive way of talking about it if he is in fact a good player, but just no. Glenn says getting Partey was his highlight of the year. We don't need the Spuds players, says Javier. Worst moment, links to Diego Costa. FA Cup final goal from Aubameyang was Arjit's moment of 2020. Zamir says, joining as a TGT member, COVID took away going to bars and chatting and celebrating with Arsenal fans, and this channel was such a great way to get that back. Thank you, Zamir. That's a very nice and kind way of putting your best moment of 2020. Mark Baldwin says, best moment was letting go of Raul. I'm not sure the answer is Edu. The cup was kind of nice as well. Kind of nice. This is how we've been spoiled as Arsenal fans, that a cup win is kind of nice at this stage. Have I heard of the Roger Ibanez rumours? Says Charlie. No, I haven't heard of any of those rumours whatsoever. Ibanez. I've never heard of the rumours for that so far. I will definitely have to look into them though, Charlie. Ty Breezy says, just having football back in general, what would we do without it is a very, very good callback for the year for sure. A says we should be going for Edouard as a possible Lacazette replacement. The Celtic forward, French youth international, very, very highly rated, doing really, really good things at Celtic. But is the level from Scotland to the Premier League, is that right? Should we be looking for a player at that level? Has it worked for Tierney? It definitely has. Would it work for a striker? Is a big question, and certainly something that maybe we should consider. Matthew Hudson says, just seeing the young players showing the others how to play the modern game, diving forwards and not the sideways possession garbage. I love that comment. Just seeing the young players come through and really kind of show up the senior figures at the club. Daniel Roberts says, best moment has to be Arsenal releasing their 376th training kit of the season the other day. Best moment was dropping the FA Cup in the celebration for Aubameyang. Matthew Hudson, we talked about that. Saeed says, would you prefer Buendia or Brandt? I'd prefer them both, if I'm honest, Saeed, to be real with you. If I had a gun to my head and you had to pick either, I'd lean more towards Buendia just to see us bring in some Premier League proven talent and less of an unknown quality in Brandt for me. John P says, I really like Edouard. I would offer Eddie as part of an exchange. He might interest them, but would Celtic interest Eddie is the question. I'm not sure. What's our opinions on Sabitzer? Sabitzer a great player, but I'm not sure that Arsenal are going to be able to nab him in January from RB Leipzig, who are going into the Champions League knockout rounds. It would cost a lot of money. I like him. I know him from watching him at Salzburg as well when he was on loan there from Leipzig. But yeah, I think it would be tough to get that one done. He'd be great. Like, don't get me wrong, he's a versatile attacking midfielder, but I'm just not sure if it's one that Arsenal would be able to do. Would I prefer one of Brandt or Sabitzer? Interesting question. I think I'd lean towards Sabitzer purely because of a form thing, and he's obviously on a much bigger high than what Brandt is now, and I think he could fit into multiple positions on the pitch as well. Neil de Souza says 15th was a blessing in disguise because that means we can get rid of some mediocre players. Otherwise, we will still have those mediocre players. Maybe. I think that the club was always planning on doing a lot of the business we were seeing, whether or not we were moving from that 15th place, whether we'd lost against Chelsea, whether we won these games. I still think we would have gone on to do the business that we're ultimately going to do. So it's going to be interesting. The youth coming through in 2020 was Jack Poulton's highlight. Charlie Millen says, would you go for Basuma or Nkuku? Definitely Basuma out of the two of them. And do you think the EPL might get cancelled due to the Tier 4? In my view, the Premier League will do everything they can to keep things going. They don't want to lose the Premier League right now. That's not something that's being discussed as even any sort of suspension. It depends on how the situation develops over the next few months, how the virus and the vaccine come into contact with each other, and how the vaccine kind of combats that. I don't expect it to kind of go. I think football has very much learned to deal with how to play behind closed doors. It's not like when the thing first happened and we had to ban all and postpone all matches. It's certainly something that when you look at how they've dealt with it and how we're dealing with it now, we are seeing that they're dealing with it much better than they were when it first happened, and they know how to do that and work kind of behind closed doors. We're seeing more cases. I'm not surprised by that. We're seeing this new kind of variant of the virus spread as well, which is more transmissible. So I'm not surprised we're seeing more cases. And also, people would have mixed over Christmas. So I have absolutely no doubt about that, which have then caused an increase in the amount of COVID cases that we've seen. So we'll just have to wait and see how things go regarding that. Happy New Year, Karthik. Happy New Year, mate. Have a good one, fella. Igro says he's gone. Oh, wait. He's back next season. But we're saving around £3 to £4 million from this deal, which I think is certainly a positive. Zebra says, bro, can we qualify for Europa? You think there might be a turnaround? There's always hope. We're 6 points off Chelsea at this stage. That shows you how much of a crazy season that this is. If we're 6 points off Chelsea now, halfway through the season, there's all the possibility in the world, if Arsenal can put a good run together, that we'll look in a much healthier position in the next month or so. In terms of kind of Europa, though, we'll wait and see. We could even qualify for the Champions League through the Europa League itself if we go and do well in the competition, but there are some very good sides that we've got to do, and we've obviously got to beat Benfica in the first place. Thank you, Hovik. Absolute legend, mate. John P says, Aziz for sure as a player that we could look to bring through, and that's in answer to Daniel Roberts' question. I think they've got a chance of pushing through. It'd be good to see them get a loan if it's necessary. Thing we didn't do with Willock, in my view, is give the guy a loan, and that's, I feel, stunted his development as a player. That's something that we can't afford to do with these other youngsters. We need to give them opportunities to play, and that needs to be done with possible loan deals. I need to really work out how to say your name, Anti-Chris. I'm really sorry. Honestly, I think it would be great for Kolasinac to fresh start elsewhere. So I hope this loan will give him the kickstart he needs to restart maybe in the summer. Ibrahim says, as much as I like Basuma, I think the profile of him and Partey are way too similar. And that's not a problem for me. You can put these two players next to each other and they would perform well and they would interchange well. But you then got to have that player that goes in front of them that gives you that variety. I don't think it's necessarily an issue to play those two players next to each other whatsoever. Ara says, I think Pudge is coming. I watched the news. I don't think Pudge is coming personally. I think he's someone that they would sell in the summer maybe, but I don't see him going in January. But I might be proved wrong. AFC says, good seeing you on the watch-alongs with you, Izzy. Much love, bro. Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. It's much fun doing them. And we got some really good feedback and comments going on. Obviously, you guys leaving comments in Hugh's videos is really obviously beneficial and really helpful. It makes me look good, which I appreciate. So keep the comments coming. It's really kind of you to do that. Hovik says, isn't Torreira coming back? Atleti was going to cancel this. No, it's a rumour that I don't expect to happen. Charlie says, would you be happy with the Torreira coming back early? It's an extra squad. If he does come back, I mean, hopefully you integrate him or you sell him. You go one or two routes. I don't think they will cut the loan short. I think that was kind of a bit of fake news that came out, to be honest. No problem, mate. Just go with anti. Yeah, that's what I'll do. So much easier. See, when people make my life easier, it's so much better. That is going to round off today's show because I've got some New Year's Eve pizza coming away at 6 o'clock, so I can't afford to miss that. It's been an absolutely crazy year. It's mental to consider how the year started to where we obviously are now, both in general. Personally, the channel started the year on, I think, about 15,000 subs, and we've gone up to 20,000 by the end of the year, which is great. Absolutely fantastic to see you guys just continuously supporting the channel. I want to see it grow. I want to see you guys become kind of more integrated into things. We're doing these shows with the members more often. I'm getting to meet more and more of you, and it's fantastic. It's one of the big privileges of doing the show. Not only that, but I changed jobs, was a teacher at the start of the year, and now I'm a full-time football writer. So that in itself is mental, that this whole point of doing TGT was to have a portfolio and a dossier, as Mike likes to say, to break into the industry, and that started to happen too. And who knows what 2021 will hold. But I wish you all the best this year. I hope you have a fantastic evening. And even though you can't spend it necessarily with everyone that you would be able to usually, and the friends that you love and the family that you love, I'm hoping that you can contact them in some way. If you've had a horrible year, if you have lost people, unfortunately, I can only send my best thoughts out to you, and I hope that 2021 treats you in a much, much better way than it has done this year. But we're going to carry on with the shows. We'll be back tomorrow for the preview of Arsenal's match against West Brom. And then, of course, straight after the West Brom game, we will be back with straight away with the Raw Reaction show. If there's any news regarding transfers, we will cover that as well. But it's been a mad year, a crazy year. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for all of the support this year. And keep it coming in 2021. We'll see you again very, very soon. We'll see you next year, which is just a day away. So don't go too far. But it's been a pleasure to speak to you as always. And as always, up the Arsenal and cheerio.